Right now, at this exact moment, money is being created that will make you poorer. Not stolen, not taxed, not taken in any way you can point to on a form or fight in a courtroom. Just quietly, systematically, and by design, the purchasing power sitting in your bank account is being diluted while someone else, someone you will never meet, is already spending the new money at the old prices. This is not a conspiracy. It is economics, and it has a name. The year is 1730. A French-Irish banker and economist named Richard Cantillon is watching something that no one around him can explain. The French government has been printing money, a lot of it, and yet the country is not getting richer. Some people are getting spectacularly wealthy. Others, the farmers, the laborers, the tradespeople, are falling behind faster than ever. The gap is widening, but the total amount of money in the economy is growing. So where is the prosperity going? Cantillon understood something that would take the rest of the world nearly 300 years to fully absorb. He wrote it down in a manuscript called Essay on the Nature of Trade in General, one of the most important economic documents ever written and also one of the most ignored. His discovery was this: new money does not enter an economy evenly. It enters at a specific point. It flows outward from that point through specific channels. And by the time it reaches the edges of the economy, it has already done its damage. The people at the center get richer. The people at the edges get poorer. And the distance between them grows with every new unit of currency created. He called it the circulation of money. Today, economists call it the Cantillon Effect. And once you understand it, you will see it operating in every headline, every market cycle, every baffling moment when the economy seems to be booming, but your life does not feel like it is. Start with something simple. Your government needs money. Not your taxes, not your savings, but new money. In the United States, the Federal Reserve creates it. In Europe, the European Central Bank. The mechanism is complex by design, involving bond purchases, reserve ratios, and interest rate adjustments that most people rightly find impenetrable. But the result is straightforward. New dollars, new euros, new units of currency enter the financial system, and they enter it at one end. The banks. The banks receive this money first. They can now lend more. They can invest more. They can purchase assets, real estate, equities, commodities at the prices those assets carry today before anyone else knows the money supply has grown. Then the money moves. Large corporations borrow from the newly flush banks. They expand. They hire, they buy their competitors. They acquire property. They purchase raw materials, all at yesterday's prices. Then it moves again. Government contractors receive new spending. Defense firms, infrastructure companies, healthcare systems. They take that money and they pay their suppliers, their employees, their executives, still at prices that have not yet fully adjusted. And only then, after passing through all of these hands, after enriching everyone it touched along the way, does the new money begin to trickle down into the broader economy. Into your paycheck, into the interest on your savings account, into the small raise your employer offers you at your annual review. But here is the problem. By the time the money reaches you, the prices have already moved. The banks already bought the real estate. The corporations already acquired the assets. The early recipients already spent their new wealth at old prices. And now that same wealth, diluted, devalued, and distributed, is arriving in your hands at the exact moment the market has finished adjusting upward. You are always last in line. That is not bad luck. That is the architecture. Think about what this means for something as simple as a house. In 1970, the average American home cost roughly $23,000. The average household income was around $9,800. A house cost about 2.3 times the annual income. Today, that ratio in most major cities is closer to 10 to 1, 12 to 1, in some places 20 to 1. You are not imagining the gap. You are not failing to work hard enough. The prices were set before you arrived at the auction. The economist Ludwig von Mises spent decades trying to explain this to people who did not want to hear it. His 1912 work, The Theory of Money and Credit, laid out the mechanics with the kind of precision that makes economists uncomfortable, because it leaves very little room for reassuring conclusions. His argument was simple. Monetary inflation cannot enrich everyone. It can only transfer purchasing power from those who receive the money late to those who receive it first. Every time, without exception. The famous Austrian school of economics built an entire framework around this insight. And while mainstream economists have spent the better part of a century arguing about the details, the core observation has never been overturned. It has only been reframed, renamed, and politely set aside. Now fast forward to 2008. The global financial system collapses. Banks, which made catastrophically leveraged bets on the housing market, find themselves insolvent. The response from the Federal Reserve is the largest monetary expansion in American history up to that point. Quantitative easing. Trillions of new dollars flowing into the financial system, directly into the banks that had just failed. What happened next is a perfect case study in the Cantillon Effect. The stock market, after a brief crash, rose to record highs. Real estate prices, after a brief dip, climbed to levels that made the pre-2008 market look affordable. Asset prices, the things owned overwhelmingly by the wealthy, exploded upward. Meanwhile, wages stagnated. Savings earned near zero interest for over a decade. The cost of housing, healthcare, and education climbed relentlessly. By 2020, the bottom half of American households owned less than 2% of the stock market. The top 10% owned nearly 90%. This is not an accident of individual effort. It is the mathematical outcome of a system that routes new money through specific channels before it reaches everyone else. Thomas Piketty, the French economist whose 2013 work Capital in the 21st Century became one of the most discussed economic books in decades, documented this divergence with exhaustive data across dozens of countries and centuries. His conclusion was that when the return on capital exceeds the rate of economic growth, which it almost always does, wealth concentrates. The rich get richer not because they work harder, but because they own assets that appreciate while currencies depreciate. The Cantillon effect is the mechanism behind Piketty's observation. It explains not just that wealth concentrates, but precisely how and why. New money flows to asset owners first. Asset prices rise. Wage earners who own few assets and hold their wealth in depreciating currency fall behind. The gap widens. The treadmill speeds up. Here is what this means for the number sitting in your bank account right now. If inflation is running at 4% and your savings account earns 1%, you are losing 3% of your purchasing power per year and calling it financial security. In 10 years, at that rate, $100 in your account today will buy what $67 buys today. In 20 years, $45 worth of goods. You are not standing still. You are sliding backward, slowly, invisibly, on a slope you did not design and were never warned about. The system is not broken. That is the hardest part to sit with. The system is producing exactly the outcomes it was built to produce. Currency creation flows to the financial system first. Asset prices rise before wages rise. Purchasing power transfers from late recipients to early recipients. And the early recipients are, by the structure of the system itself, always the same group. What Cantillon observed in 1730 in the coffee houses of Paris, watching the fortunes of John Law's Mississippi Company rise and collapse, is the same process playing out today on a global scale, in every country with a central bank and a fiat currency, which is to say every country on Earth. Knowing this does not immediately fix your financial situation, but it changes the question you are asking. The question is no longer, why am I falling behind despite working hard? The question is, where is the new money entering the system right now, and how do you position yourself closer to that entry point rather than waiting at the end of the line? The helicopter is always flying. The question Cantillon was really asking, the question that has never stopped being relevant, is not where does the money fall. It is who gets to it first, and the answer 300 years later is still the same. The ones who understand the system, the ones who own the assets, the ones who are not waiting for the money to reach them, the ones who already know what you now know. Right now, somewhere, new money is being created. The only thing that has changed since 1730 is that now you know its name.